Good evening and welcome to Thai PBS English News Service. You're with me tonight, Supajorn Klinsawan. Thailand and the Southeast Asian region have been shaken by two earthquake aftershocks, one measuring 5.5 on the Richter scale off the coast of Sumatra Island and another measuring 4.3 with its epicenter on Phuket Island itself. Despite chaos during the evacuations, the Meteorological Department insisted that the aftershocks of this size are unlikely to cause a tsunami. This 4.3 magnitude aftershock occurring at 4:44 p.m. Thai time originated in Phuket's Talang district. Then 2 minutes later, a 5.5 magnitude aftershock rocked Indonesia's west coast of Sumatra Island at 4:46 p.m. The Meteorological Department confirms that these tremors are aftershocks from last Wednesday's 8.6 magnitude earthquake. Residents in the south, especially in Phuket, evacuated buildings while some ran for their lives. Traffic in some parts of Phuket was reported to be in chaos, especially with the Songkran travelers already on the road. However, Puwieng Prakamin, spokesperson of the Meteorological Department, insists that these earthquakes or aftershocks on this scale are not dangerous and are not likely to cause tsunamis or any major damage, especially if the epicenter is near Sumatra Island. The Met Office also says more aftershocks are expected for months to come. However, if the quakes originated somewhere else and exceed a 7.0 magnitude, Thais should then start to worry. Songkran holiday travelers are making use of their substitute holiday today to travel back to work, leading to traffic congestion on all major routes nationwide. As Songkran 2012 draws to a close, the Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Department revealed that so far, at least 253 people have lost their lives in road accidents during the festivities. According to the latest figures released by the Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Department's Road Safety Center, 2,581 road accidents have been reported in just the past 6 days. 2,751 people were injured in those accidents, of which at least 253 were fatalities. The main causes of accidents were reported to be speeding, drunk driving, motorcycling without a helmet, and traveling in vehicles without wearing a safety belt. Two worrying statistics have emerged from the Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Department's numbers. First, the number of accidents that occurred on straight highways increased compared to last year, and the number of deaths and injuries of young drivers has increased significantly. Surat Thani and Nakhon Si Thammarat were provinces with the biggest number of road-related deaths, while the most injured occurred in Chiang Rai. However, 12 provinces saw 0 fatalities. Meanwhile, interprovincial bus operators, or BKS, estimated around 200,000 people will be traveling by bus back to Bangkok today, and the operators say that they have enough seats to meet demand. Alcohol and narcotics checks of bus drivers will be rigorous during this period. There have, however, been reports of buses hiking their ticket prices during the rush. Violators caught doing so will be fined and have their licenses revoked. The Transport Ministry's hotline is 1584. The ministry is also asking the public to avoid using the services of illegal buses and vans, as they may lack insurance and safety checkups. Meanwhile, traffic is expected to be congested on all major highways until tomorrow morning as holiday makers head home or back to work. And one problem which train and bus passengers are facing once they reach their destinations, especially in Bangkok, is the limited number of taxis available. What's more than that, if you're lucky enough to get one, an extra charge on top of the meter is becoming common practice for many passengers. As people who work in Bangkok head back to the capital, catching a decent cab may be difficult, especially near bus and train stations, where the demand for taxis is currently greater than the supply. With some passengers not lining up in a queue, some taxi drivers are trying to take advantage of the situation and ask for extra payment on top of the metered fare. Some extort their passengers by demanding a fixed price, completely ignoring the meter. Passengers who are refused by taxis, forced to pay non-metered charges, or witness other irregularities may immediately report the driver and taxi plate to the Department of Land Transport via their hotline, which is 1584. I say again, that's 1584. Some energy prices such as benzene 91 and 95 have been increased today following a decision by the National Energy Policy Council to increase oil fund levies on these two types of fuel as a way to reducing the fund's deficit. Meanwhile, the prices of NGV and LPG have also been raised for the fourth time. Energy costs continue to pose a challenge for both the government and the public as world fuel prices continue their upward trend. A study by the Energy Fund Administration Institute, which ended on April the 9th, indicated that the oil fund is already roughly 27 billion baht in the red. The root cause of the problem was a temporary suspension of oil fund levies on benzene 91 and 95, as well as diesel, which was intended to ease rises in the cost of living. The government plans to reduce subsidies on NGV and LPG while increasing the price of these two types of fuel to reflect the actual market prices. The policy, however, has been met with much opposition from business operators in the transportation industry, slowing down the plan. The suspension on the excise taxes on diesel and benzene is also another problem that caused the oil fund to run at a deficit as the world oil price surged, resulting in expenditure exceeding the collection of oil fund rate on levy collection. The fund's deficit has forced the government to resume levies on benzene 91 and 95 at the rate of 1 baht per liter. The retail price of benzene 91 and at PTT and Bangchak gas stations has been adjusted to 43 baht 85 stang per liter, whereas benzene 95 has been changed to 48 baht 30 stang. The soaring fuel prices have also led many business operators into the transportation industry to seek an increase in transportation fares. The Ministry of Transport will discuss the necessity of adjusting fares with the business operators again on April the 25th, as operators claim they can no longer bear the rising costs of fuel and labor. NGV vehicles driving along Mitraphap Highway, which links the central and northeastern regions, are facing a shortage of natural gas due to a closure of an NGV plant in the region. The situation might become worse when haltage of trucks return to the roads tomorrow. A steam boiler explosion at an NGV factory in Khon Kaen's Nampong district is the main cause of the NGV's shortage in Isan region this past weekend. Hundreds of interprovincial buses, which are fueled by natural gas, faced problems due to the lack of NGV. So the Association of Interprovincial Bus Operators called on 100 buses to alter their routes to service only those areas that are less than 600 kilometers apart, so as to avoid waiting in line for gas. However, vehicles with dual fuel system engines could simply decide to switch to use gasoline, but this would result in an increase to transportation costs. The Department of Mineral Fuels reported that the steam boiler has now been fixed and resumed supplying gas into the pipeline system at 3 p.m. today. This will help return the situation to normal and reduce the problems of those who are returning home or returning to work from the Songkran break. However, if NGV stations still remain empty, haulage trucks, which will return to the highways as business resume normal working tomorrow, will be in limbo. Next week, the Prime Minister will follow up on the various flood prevention projects scheduled to be completed by the beginning of next month, including specifying the controversial 3 million rai water retention areas. The PM admits that the numerous water management agencies need to be more coordinated. Following a meeting with the Water and Flood Management Committee, Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra reiterated that the committee, which is referred to Govt, must act as a center for organizing the workflow of all relevant agencies, in addition to distributing information so that all units are working on the same page when it comes to water management and future flood prevention. The government will push the Budget Bureau to speed up fund distribution so flood prevention projects can be ready in time for the rainy season. The Prime Minister added that the water remaining in reservoirs will not be drained completely, as some is reserved in case of drought. Altogether, 8 flood prevention measures are scheduled to be finished by early next month, including the 3 million rai, or 480,000 hectares of land needed to retain water to prevent other areas from flooding. The government says that it will also work out a more efficient disaster warning system because the tsunami warning on April the 11th proved that more work is needed to upgrade the warning and information dissemination systems. While former Prime Minister and fugitive Thaksin visited Laos and Cambodia over this weekend to celebrate the Songkran festivities and meet hundreds of Thai supporters who went to welcome him, Democrat MPs insist that the country will not see any reconciliation if Thaksin doesn't return to Thailand to face justice. The former Prime Minister says that he wants to return to Thailand and, if or when he does, that he will not take any political positions. Members of the Thaksin family, Pheu Thai MPs, and many banned politicians of the former Thai Rak Thai party visited Siem Reap to join a Songkran bathing ceremony with Thaksin. Prior to crossing the border into Cambodia, the fugitive former Prime Minister was in Laos. This is the closest Thaksin has been to home soil since his self-imposed exile in 2008. Thaksin insisted at a ceremony that if he can come back home, he will not take any political positions but will only give advice to his sister Yingluck Shinawatra, the Thai Prime Minister, who also says any reconciliation has to have majority support. Noppadol Pathama, Thaksin's legal advisor, claims that Thaksin's expression of desire to return Thailand is without any political agenda or political commitment. Yet, Noppadol accepts that the recent reconciliation plan would pave way for a more rapid return. Meanwhile, Thepthai Senpong, Democrat MP, claims that Thaksin has tried to distort the justice system by claiming to be innocent. He says if Thaksin really respects the law, he should come back and serve his full prison sentence, and the court should not return the 46 billion baht of his frozen assets in an effort to lead the country into reconciliation. Thaksin is evading 2 years imprisonment and conflict of interest when he was in power. He was then ousted by a coup in 2006. After celebrating Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen's birthday, the former PM flew back to his residence in Dubai. And that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of Thai PBS English News Service. I'm Subhajon Klinsuwan saying good night for now. Good night, Swadee Kap.